Okay, we're doing this book here, Prevent and Reverse Diabetes by me, Pete Rogers. It's my new book. We're on part 3. We're talking about causes of insulin resistance, which is like saying what causes type 2 diabetes. We just did number 17, excessive amount of dietary animal protein. I think what happens with dietary animal protein is it puts a person into like an anabolic phase by activating mTOR, the nutrient sensing pathway that's like a building contractor waiting to have all its building materials available before it starts to build. And when it says time to build, the liver starts pushing cholesterol into the blood, lipids into the blood. You become hypercholesterolemic, that's pro-atherogenic. Hyperlipidemia then predisposes insulin resistance and diabetes. That's also an anabolic thing. Okay, now we're going to talk about PFOA. PFOA is perfluorooctanoic acid. It's better known like the common version is like things like Teflon, nonstick cookware. It's also sometimes referred to as polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, PFAS. You'll often hear about that. These have been called forever chemicals, a lot of fluoride in there. The fluoride binds very tight, and that prevents other things from sticking to it. It's on a lot of different surfaces. Besides nonstick cookware, it'll be on nonstick surfaces like your cell phone screen. Some dental floss used to have that, so I specifically will not use those dental flosses. I think like one of the Easy Glide versions or something like that. If it feels too easy, glides too easy, that's bad. Get rid of it because you don't want to be rubbing that crap in your mouth every day. You're going to accumulate these toxic chemicals. I use a simple, like cheap wax floss that breaks a lot, but so what? It's a more natural substance. Microwave popcorn bags are bad. I would recommend staying away from that stuff. The butter that they use in there used to be real toxic. Could even cause something called popcorn lung. Could lead to pulmonary fibrosis or something. Fast food burger wrapper paper. It's not good. Anything nonstick is going to have these extra chemicals in it. Some type of related chemicals in it. Let's see. In rats, it's been shown that this will cause beta cell apoptosis, meaning programmed cell death of the beta cells. Not good. Fried food also can cause beta cell apoptosis, death of your pancreatic beta cells, the ones that make insulin, so that's bad. You don't ever want to cook on nonstick cookware. You don't ever want to have fried food. You get increased reactive oxygen species, increased mitochondrial superoxides, pro-inflammatory cytokines. It's all bad. There was a good video on a YouTube channel called Veritasium, and it was called How One Company Secretly Poisoned the Planet, all about this PFAS stuff. You can remove it from your drinking water with reverse osmosis filter and an ion exchange filter, maybe some other types of filters. There was an article in Consumer Reports, April 10th, 2024, by Keith Flamer about removing PFAS from drinking water. Mitochondrial inhibitors, I got a video on my YouTube channel about it. There's a lot of drugs inhibit mitochondria. It's a really bad thing because mitochondrial inhibition by SAT-FAT, for example, is like one of the most common causes, probably the most common cause of insulin resistance. And the reason I say that is tons of these modern drugs, they inhibit the mitochondria. If you look at statins, they lower your cholesterol synthesis in your liver, blocking the cholesterol synthesis pathway, but they also inhibit mitochondria. So, they increase your risk of diabetes. And there's tons of drugs that increase. I got a whole bunch of lectures. You've seen them. You can look at my lecture, mitochondria inhibitors, newsletter on mitochondria inhibitors, etc. Circuit inhibitors can have effects similar to mitochondria because they're related to calcium metabolism, pumping calcium into the endoplasmic reticulum. Circa means sarcoplasm, endoplasmic reticulum, calcium ATPase. And basically, anything that causes insulin resistance tends to be a circuit inhibitor. There's a bit of a vicious cycle effect there. And basically, anything that smells bad is bad for you. Anything that smells really strongly chemical is bad for you. Like air fresheners, they're really toxic. I made an entire video about how toxic air fresheners are. You'd be amazed at how toxic they are. Anything that smells bad is bad for you. God gave you a nose for a reason. You should pay attention to it. Nail polish is bad for you. And by the way, women, I think nail polish is stupid. We either like it or we don't. We don't care about your nail polish. I think women wear nail polish to show off to the other women rather than to the man. The man doesn't care about her fingernails. I've had about 1 million conversations in my life with guys about women. Never once do we ever talk about a woman's fingernails and her nail polish. If she's got big, long claws on her fingernails, that's kind of scary to us. We're afraid she's going to scratch us. We don't like that. Okay, and we don't like all these muscle-bound women. They're disgusting, We like feminine women, okay? These muscle-bound women is a new thing of the modern era, the last 10 years on the internet. Everywhere you look, there's a muscle-bound female. In real life, the women are weak. They're like about the same physical strength as a boy in 5th or 6th grade, pre-adolescent. I think God gave women in general in the real world just enough strength to control their sons until they hit puberty. Then, and our ancestors, I think that meant the boy was supposed to go off with the men to hunt and do whatever men do, work in the fields. Okay, anyways, getting back to these things. Anything that smells bad is bad. You should never go to a nail polish salon. Stupid. Avoid liquid paper, paint glue, all that crap. It's bad for you, okay? Anything that transitions rapidly from liquid to solid, gives off volatile organic chemicals, things that have a high vapor pressure at room temperature, they're all bad for you, okay? They're potentially SERCA inhibitors, for example, leading to insulin resistance in that way. Let's see. Obesity is bad because obesity often leads to a spillover effect and increased free fatty acids in the blood that cause insulin resistance. So you want to minimize your dietary fat. Like Dr. McDougall said, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. The more dietary fat people eat, a population eats, the fatter they get. A moment on your lips, forever on your hips. The body wants to burn carbohydrates for energy. It wants to store fats, make you fat. And like I said, you'll eventually get some spillover effect and spill lipids into your blood, get increased insulin resistance, etc. All the major fat categories are obesogenic and eventually lead to insulin resistance, if not right away. Sat fat's the fastest one to lead to insulin resistance. With protein, the body wants to build, but it'll activate mTOR, and that'll lead to hyperlipidemia too. So you're not going to win with a high-fat diet. You're not going to win with a high-protein diet in terms of optimizing your health. And our ancestors wanted to put some fat on in the autumn to get ready to survive the winter in case it was cold and food was scarce. Okay, nowadays there's no real food scarcity other than things like, the animal rights, vegans running around trying to destroy the food supply, the other people trying to get rid of all the eggs because of the so-called flu problem. Okay, we'll take our chances with the flu. Don't destroy our egg supply, okay? We need that more. If they destroy the plant supply, you need a backup, and having those eggs around could be very useful to keep us alive so we don't starve to death. Okay, let's see. Yeah, we talked about that. Ultra-processed foods are bad. The classic story is the Nauru. If you want to see something interesting, look up the Nauru. I made a video about them. Nauru's, Nauru, the fattest people in the world in the island of Nauru. They were out, I think, somewhere near Australia. And all these tropical birds would come over their land and poop on their land, and the phosphate in the poop made great fertilizer. They grew their own food. They were completely self-sufficient. You see old pictures of them. They're muscular, thin, healthy looking. So anyway, some big companies came in and said, we'll buy your topsoil because we can use it for phosphate fertilizer and pay you tons of money. And the people agreed to it. So the big corporations took all their topsoil, and in the meantime, they shipped in a whole bunch of processed food, and then the Nauru became the fattest people in the world from eating all the processed food, with body weights of an average adult was 230 pounds. Talk about stupid. Get rid of your life-generating good topsoil and sell it for, trinkets. Stupid. Okay, so anyways, that's the Nauru, the fattest processed people in the world, because they put all this MSG in there and salt and MFG, and they fry it, and they put other secret sauce in there, and it tastes good. So people overeat it, and they get fat, and sick. And all the preservatives in there are often fungal inhibitors, which means mold inhibitors, which means mitochondrial inhibitors, which means they might also cause insulin resistance. Things that cause mitochondrial dysfunction have a tendency to cause insulin resistance. And there's a lot of them. Aging is associated with increased risk of insulin resistance. That can in part be due to decreased mitochondrial function with aging. You sort of accumulate mitochondrial injury over the course of your life, and that can decrease your energy level. That's why you want to exercise, including with some intensity, because it's use it or lose it. You got to maintain the mitochondrial high levels of function, or you might lose it. Obstructive sleep apnea is associated with insulin resistance and tissue hypoxia. There's some medications, there's a lot of them actually, that are associated with increased risk of diabetes. Take a look at this. Thiazide diuretics, metolazone, beta blockers, not good. Beta blockers can also decrease mitochondrial function. Quinolone antibiotics. What a surprise. They decrease mitochondrial function. Antipsychotics, they decrease mitochondrial function. Anti-seizure medicines like phenytoin, they decrease mitochondrial function. Same with valproic acid is also anti-seizure med. Antidepressants, both tricyclics and the SSRIs, they decrease mitochondrial functions. Oral contraceptives with high-dose estrogen, okay? Leuprolide, goserelin, protease inhibitors to treat HIV, they're mitochondrial inhibitors too. Some of these immune suppressants are mitochondrial inhibitors, and of course corticosteroids, they cause hyperlipidemia. Gee, look at the vast majority of these drugs that increase your risk of diabetes. They're mitochondrial inhibitors. Big surprise there, huh? You got to be careful what you're taking. The average chump takes 5, 10, 15 meds, doesn't even know. They're often on multiple mitochondrial inhibitors. Atrazine, the herbicide sprayed on non-organic corn, it's a big-time mitochondrial inhibitor. It's a big-time estrogenic. Okay, and it's associated with lowered sperm counts, penis deformities, hypospadias, testicular deformity, cryptorchidism. Okay, precocious puberty in females, fibroids, preterm birth, turns the male frogs into female frogs. What a disaster. I would never eat that crap. So anyways, those are causes of insulin resistance. I hope you found that helpful. The way to optimize your insulin sensitivity is to avoid all of those things. Eat a low-fat, low-sodium, plant-based diet. Okay, starches are probably the best way to go for middle-aged people to some extent. Keep some fruits in there. The Mastering Diabetes guys are big believers that it's okay for a young person to eat a lot of fruit, especially if they exercise more. And if you're older, you can eat the fruit, but you better exercise more. Anyways, I hope you found that helpful.